Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we're talking with my buddy Larry Wagner up in New York. Real estate's a whole different animal up there. We're going to get into that a little bit today. But what we're really going to talk about is Larry works with his son and they have another partner. And they've really split up their team where they can divide and conquer and focus on what they're good at. In Larry's instance, it is the financing side of the business, which they have a lot of money out. They need to raise a lot of money for the market they're in because the properties are very expensive. The construction projects are very expensive. And the construction side. So we're going to dig into learning a little bit more about Larry, how their team is built out, and we're going to talk about construction and financing. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Larry, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Excited to have you on.
Yes, me too. This is new territory for me.
Yeah. Well, I think at one point when we talked, I think you made some comment along the lines, if you remember this, that like I have a face for radio or some comment. So
the first time I met you.
Video here, so a lot of people just listen. So
that was your comment to me, by the way.
Oh, okay. I don't remember how it came out.
I said you had a great voice for radio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad to have you here and excited to learn more about your business and share it with other people that might be listening in. So before we kind of dive in, why don't you tell us kind of how you found your way into real estate?
I found my way into real estate. It's sort of my background, my professional background started from when I was a kid. Just a real brief story. When I was 8 years old, I wrote my 4 goals down on a piece of paper and thumbtacked into my door. And I got in trouble by my mother for making a hole in the door. My father thought it was wonderful I had wrote goals. My mother was upset about the door. But those goals lasted with me until I reached my 4th goal at the age of 38, which 30 years after I wrote my goals, I finally reached my goals. And one of my goals was to be a cabinet maker. And another goal was to be wealthy. I had a defined amount in there. And those two don't go hand in hand. But I graduated from college. I opened up a cabinet shop about 10 months after I graduated from college. And I built a very nice big shop, 30 employees and so on, and sold that off. I then went into the world of finance. And I joined my father at that point, who I was with for 28 years until he passed at 91. And while I was in finance, I did financial advisor working with clients. My secretary introduced me to was now my partner, Jamel. She had worked in real estate and she did deals for Jamel. She would get him deals that he would then wholesale back when, before anyone had terminology for these kind of things.
Yeah.
And they had a fascinating relationship. She just thought we'd get along well. So I met Jamel once. We hit it off like that. And we ended up flipping our first deal to bought our first house together. And then within a few months of that, before the house even got finished and sold, we ended up buying an apartment building in Connecticut, a 27-unit building. We ended up buying 4 more buildings after that. And then we started flipping a second, third house. And in 5 years, in 3 years, we flipped 5 houses and then bought the properties. And we said, we want to make this a real business. So we decided we're going to flip 50 houses in 19 months. Now, in New York, as you said, prices are very expensive.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the wherewithal to do that, but we said, what the hell? So we went from 5 in 3 years to 50 in 19 months. Well, we ended up doing 42. That's pretty damn close to 50.
Yeah.
But so my background was as a cabinet maker gave me the knowledge I need for construction. Jamel's background's in real estate and doing deals, who is never a conventional realtor. And together, and then with my capital and knowledge of money, it just was a perfect team. And that's how I got involved in real estate. And then just last year, just about a year ago, we brought my son in, who's involved in technology. Yeah. And he's really, we brought him in, and a few months later, we ended up joining your organization. And because of him. And then I realized your organization, it wasn't a meeting about real estate, it was a meeting about business and technology, really. And I sat back twiddling my thumbs while Ben knew everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I realized this business is beyond any one of us. And thank God, because Jamel, Ben, and I all have different skill sets.
Yeah.
And I said, Jamel's the real estate guy. He's the one who deals with everything real estate related. I deal with everything construction related and raising capital. And Ben basically is our COO, Chief Operating Officer. He runs the company. He's the one who gets systems in place, which we had none of before. So it really is, it's a perfect marriage this way.
That's great. And that's pretty typical for a lot of real estate folks as they, it's changed, it's evolved a lot over the past few years, but one man, one woman band, or a couple of brothers, or a father-son team, or husband and wife team, very common. That's my wife and our, and it's like, it's a hustle business, and you just don't have a lot of systems and processes in place. And then hopefully if you're going to get over that hump, you have to put systems and processes in place to like a real business. I mean, you're not a Fortune 500 company, but you need to have marketing and sales, operations, finance, like all those pieces still have to be in place, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're fortunate that we all coincidentally happen to have the skill sets, although I brought Ben in intentionally because his skill set was absolutely lacking between Jamel and me.
Yeah. And my son turns 12 here in a few days, and so he's got a little ways to go. But what an amazing opportunity to be able to work with your son.
Absolutely. I had spent 20 years with my father. If I can pull off 20 years with my son, what kind of career? With 56 years, that'll be a storied career. Yeah,
absolutely. So you focus heavily on the financing side and the construction side. So I want to kind of dive into the financing side first. Now, you guys are very capital intensive there in New York. Your properties are very expensive. I know you're doing, like, just to give people some perspective, what's a typical, ARV that you're dealing with, and then a typical size of a construction project?
Sure. We typically pick, I'd say our average house, when we run numbers and so on, we usually assume we're paying $400,000 for a house, although about 3 weeks ago, we bought a house for, I think, 180-ish, another house for 1.1 million. So in the same week. And 2 weeks before that, we bought another house for $1 million. So our price point.
Those are purchase prices, right? And so what's the kind of ARV or the market value of those houses when you're done?
The ARV on the $101 million house is between 1.8 and 2.4.
Yeah.
So we're shooting for the $2 million price point. Construction should be about $300,000.
Yeah.
So those high price points are exceptionally lucrative. And they're very hard to come by because they're exceptionally lucrative.
Right.
But you need deep pockets to pull them off and so on.
Sure.
And it's a lot of waiting time. Up in New York, getting permits on projects is months, 3 months, could be longer.
Right.
So you're paying all those bills for all those months. You're not even swinging a hammer yet.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So for folks that are listening, depending on where you're at, that like I know where I'm at in Texas, that's a very different animal, right? So sure, properties are cheaper here and a little more friendly on the permitting side and construction side.
Right. Permits are ridiculous. I hear people say 7 days is too long. Go ahead.
So I think you said you had around 37 houses in inventory right now. So you have a massive amount tied up in inventory.
About $15 million of inventory.
Yeah. So talk about I know you were self-funding a lot of this stuff, then you realized, hey, no matter how much money anybody ever has, it's never
not that much.
Right. So talk about kind of that transition from self-funding into raising outside funding and what you had to deal with.
Sure. Just to finish your other question for one, our average deal is about $400,000. Our average construction budget is about $80,000 to $90,000.
Okay.
And the ARVs usually we're making around 25% on our money. So prior to financing fees. So you can do the math on that one.
Yeah.
But as far as raising capital, I went traditional banks. I have relationships with 3 banks we do a lot of business with big depositors. And I was quickly shot down. We don't loan money to house flippers. I said, but I have all this money in the bank. No, we don't loan money to house flippers, period. And I ended up calling 19 banks. I give myself an A for perseverance, and I got 19 no's. I then met in the parking lot a friend of mine I haven't seen in about 15 years, and I guess an acquaintance of mine I haven't seen in about 15 years. And he said, oh, call this bank. And I called the bank, and they said, because he referred me, they're willing to talk to me. And 2 months later, they gave me a line of credit of $1 million. I asked for $4 million. They gave me $1 million line of credit. I said, okay, I'm on my way. I said, I'll only accept it if you'll agree to raise it in a year. So here, 19 banks told me no, I'm now negotiating. I'll accept the terms only if. So you need a level of arrogance in this business. There's no question about it. But the
Especially if you're in New York.
especially if you plays better in New York than no other. Well, I have to admit that's true. So with that said, that got us over hump for a little while. $1 million, as you can tell, only goes so far.
Yep.
But then we started borrowing from. I interviewed 47 hard money lenders. You know, the national boys and some local guys and so on, which was a job in itself. Everybody wants to become your friend over the phone because they want you to be like them, so you do business with them. But to talk to that many people, I had to streamline all the phone calls, get down and dirty. I would tell them, let me tell you the way this call is going to work. I'm going to give you my profile in 30 seconds. You're going to see I am exactly the client you want. And then you're going to do is tell me your best deal. If your best deal is good enough for me, then we'll talk further. If it's not, I'm just going to move on, and it'll save both of us a lot of time.
Like speed dating.
It was speed dating. Ultimate. It wasn't even the 2 minutes. It was the 30-second pitch from my part, and they had that's sort of the way I buy cars too. So anyway, so I would do that, and they say, okay, rates, 10 and 2. I'd say, thank you, I'm not interested. That's higher than I'm willing to pay. And I moved to the next one. I ended up calling 47 lenders before I settled on a lender who I started working with, never did a deal. I just wasn't getting the service that I really wanted. I went to my number 2 choice, and we've hit it off, and we're doing phenomenally well.
Yeah.
So, but it took quite a while, even streamlining the phone calls, and constantly finding more lenders. Just finding 47 lenders takes a while.
Yeah. And you were just basically saying, why did you go through so many? I think most people don't do that.
They don't do that because I wanted to because I knew I was going to be borrowing millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Right,
and if I can save a half a point or a quarter of a point up front, it's going to amount to a lot of money.
Sure.
So if it's a matter of hours, additional hours on the phone, I'll get those dollars. I'll get paid handsomely if those hours on the phone.
Right.
And I did. I mean, if I'd stopped earlier, I'd probably be paying a full point more in interest than I'm paying now.
Sure.
So with that said, it was well worth the time.
Yeah, that's great. And so your kind of tip here for people that are listening are comparative shop, but do a bunch of speed dating rounds and just reach out to people that are. The truth is, a lot of those guys, I say guys, but a lot of those companies, they are very relationship based, right? So you're saying they have a tendency to just like, let's talk about how much we like one another and how we can help you build a relationship.
Right.
And they get to the rates later, and you're like, hey, just show me what's behind the curtain there, and then maybe we'll talk some more.
I use that analogy all the time. Show us behind the curtain. It's exactly how I presented myself. And it was to my benefit as well as theirs.
Right.
Because if they're going to quote me 10 and 2 after a 20-minute dog and pony show, we both lost 20 minutes. Right. And that doesn't make any sense. The rate and points rule, if the rate and points are good, and then the terms are good as far as how you operate, then we'll have a good long relationship. But until then, let's not be friends.
Yeah.
And it made sense to me. And it's not an arrogant thing. It's just an efficient thing.
Yeah.
And I knew my profile was going to allow me to get their best rate. So credit's good, my history's good, and so on. So with that in mind, why play games?
Right, right. So I know historically you were well capitalized personally. You have a lot of personal money in these deals, and I know you're moving to more of not using your own money. Maybe share why. Right. I mean, the truth is no matter how, if you had $100 million, it wouldn't be enough in the business. So eventually, but just talk about, there's got to be a mind shift there, a mindset shift going on too. Like you waited a while to seek outside capital.
We did.
Maybe talk about that and why that changed.
Investor fuel. We think we can grow bigger than we really anticipated we'd ever grow. As a result of our first mastermind meeting, investor fuel meeting, it changed the way we looked at the business. And we said, we were doing when we joined you, I remember we said we were doing about 20 deals a year. And you said, that's not really enough. You weren't excited, but I told you the profit we're making. You said, oh, that's another story.
Yeah.
Here in New York, our numbers are bigger. So with that kind of profit, okay, let's talk. I remember that. And I said, 20 deals a year. I thought we were one of the big boys on Long Island here in New York. And so many people do one and do none who call themselves house flippers, but do 1 and 2 or 3 or 4 a year. And there's a few people doing 50, 60, but there's maybe 3 of them, I would guess, on Long Island that I'm aware of. So with that in mind, someone's visiting. So with that in mind, that was actually my project manager. So with that in mind, I would, I felt like I was getting pretty big. So I can go from 20 to 50, people don't get bigger than that. But joining you guys, I said, 50, what's 50? So it's a whole different animal. And that's what made me realize if we want to go bigger, we got to get our financing in place.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great.
Mhm.
So let's talk about construction a little bit. Like you have some very labor intensive, time intensive, of course, capital
Yeah.
intensive
Yes.
projects up there. And you said you learned your skill set from construction from your cabinet
Right.
manufacturing business.
Yep.
And maybe kind of share like, I guess how, what are the skills you learned that you applied, and then
Okay.
also how that serves you well in your business today, maybe.
Interesting. This may sound crazy, but since I'm 18 years old, I'm 61. I started reading Fine Woodworking, and then when Fine Home Building came out, Fine Home Building. And I know more from reading Fine Home Building for the last maybe 30 years, that's a newer magazine, than many of my contractors. Because they, the old line, you do the same thing over and over again. They think that for 30 years, you have 30 years experience. It's really 1 year experience 30 times. And when you're reading about new technologies, new ways of doing things, new code, new building code, and so on, I'm learning new stuff every day. And I have to teach my contractors new things things that are existing in the code we didn't know, or things that are new to the code that they surely don't know. And it's somehow become my job. And I learned to do that as a result of owning a cabinet shop. Did a lot of installations and built a lot of electrical stuff and plumbing stuff as a result. And I just became interested in the construction end of things. And
Yeah,
I've never stopped learning about it. I'm constantly reading and watching and so on.
sure,
And
sure.
I find not one of the construct contracts I've ever used has ever read a publication about what they do for a living.
Right,
When I was
right.
a cabinet maker, I read about 6 of them every month or quarter as frequently as they came out. As a financial advisor, I had 15 publications I received every issue, 15 publications. But these guys read nothing.
Right.
So I think it's my job.
Yeah, I think the attention to detail, like, you know,
Yeah.
being a woodworker is you have to have a very fine skill set or be
Yeah.
around that, right? And I'm sure the level of cabinets that people might be installing and the
Right.
level of houses that you're dealing with in
Right.
that part of the country people have a very high level of expectation, which
Right.
to be good at that for as long as you were
Right.
it was a precision role, right? I mean,
It was. It
it
was. We
wasn't
were high
just
end.
like it wasn't like a tile guy or a drywall guy.
Right.
It was
Correct.
a lot of
Correct.
precise measurements and cuts and
Correct.
installations and all that. Yeah.
It had to be perfect when we sold high-end stuff. We sold through top designers and so on, and we had to do good work. I carry that same quality control through here, and we demand really good work from our contractors. And they know what we demand. We actually have a job description of every job, which is unique to each job. But in the bottom of every job description is a full page. I can't say the bottom. Behind every job, a full page of standards that every job has. That $200,000 house, or let's say an average of 275, or one of $700,000 has the same, actually even the $2 million one, going to have the same set of details. We
Mhm.
may change hardware, things of that nature,
Right.
but the same quality standards are in every one of the houses. Quality doesn't always have to cost money. I know what I can get for no money. To say, I
Right.
want this to be straight, I want this to be this way and this to be this way, doesn't necessarily mean you're spending more money. It just means your product's better. And
Yeah.
if they know what, and I work with the same contractors over and over again, so they know exactly what our style is, what we're looking for. And they know if they disappoint, they're going to have to fix it anyway.
Sure. Sure.
So
You know,
that's
one of the things you do is you really, and we did from rehabbing hundreds of houses too, is we
mm,
pretty much have the same style. We had
right.
like maybe an A and a B level
Right.
based on the market value of the
Yep.
house, the ARV of the house, but maybe talk to that systemization part of simplifying what tile we use, what colors we use, stuff like that, and how that's impacted your business or the importance
Sure.
of that, I guess.
We try to do, we started with an A-B construction plan. We started with just one plan. So we're doing between ARVs of 250 and 500. So in that price point, we stuck with one A, if you
Right.
will. But as we started getting, when that very typical for us to do $750,000, $800,000 house, this over $1 million is brand new. And for those, we started trying to
Sure.
step by game up a little bit. And I found that if we can pick out really nice tile, a really nice tile could be had for $2 a foot. So there's no reason for me to sit there and have an A and a B. I could put really nice tile, even though it's not expensive, in both houses. So I use the same tile in all the houses. We
Okay.
do wainscoting in all of our houses.
Hmm.
Just now we're finding out the lower price houses, it's getting tougher to sell. So we have to start now cutting out things like wainscoting in the lower priced houses because no one's doing it but us. And since they're getting harder to sell, we have to really start keeping the price down. And that costs, that one detail is $1,000 per house. So we
Hmm.
start
Okay.
to get a few of the details, but actually the quality is exactly the same.
Yeah.
We do $800,000 house. You put the same brand of kitchen as we do in as a $300,000 house.
Yeah. Wow.
They're just nice kitchens to begin with, and we just may put in interior rollouts in the more expensive house. You won't do in the cheaper house. Things of that nature. A spice drawer, but the cabinets are the same. So it's just a few of the amenities that make the difference, and
Sure.
again, pulling out some things like wainscoting and whatnot. But
Right.
we try
And
to
when you
keep
use the same
quality.
contractors, like they know what the expectation is, right? They get used to
Absolutely.
those materials, they get used to those styles.
Yep.
You don't have to, from a business owner standpoint, you don't have to explain it every time what to do. They just go do it like you did it the last time, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And they know when we do the walkthrough, they know what we're looking for. We want the door stops mounted at the bottom of the door, not on the hinge. I mean, everything is the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
So as we said, those guys used to 1 year experience 30 times. So that's in essence what we're doing by
Right.
doing the same thing over and over again. It really works within their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, well, Larry, you mentioned having a project description. What does that mean? Is that just a document that goes through room by room, or maybe explain what that
Oh,
is?
sure. We start at the outside of the house, start with the mailbox, work our way to the front door. We talk about the roofing, the siding, and there's an order to our job descriptions, the same order every time. So we start the front of the house, go around to the left, around the back, around the right. We talk about the roof. So they know exactly what they're looking for. So we write the job description as we walk around the house. Then we walk into the foyer. That's the first room inside the house. Then usually the living room comes next. So it's really, as you walk through the house, you can see the job in your head. And when we then go through the job, my project manager then will walk through the job with the contractor and the job description in hand. So you can make notes on the job description. We have them take pictures of the job. So that way they go in once, they know what they're doing. And they come back with a number, but it tells them the type of hinges we're using, the type of handles we're using, the type of doors we're using, the location of the kitchen cabinets, usually in a plan we'll give them. Just sometimes a hand-drawn sketch of a kitchen. That's all we need, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
And not every job requires permits. The ones that require permits, they get architectural plans. So the bathrooms, we give them the details of the bathroom. Use the same toilet in every house, the same tub in every house. So the vanities can change from 24 to 36 inches typically. Sometimes we get big double vanities and so on. So all that's outlined there.
Yeah.
But if the contractor comes back and says, Larry, can I use this tile on a job? Because Home Depot has it for 69 cents. And we're doing a basement and it's fine tile. It's 2x4. I don't like 12x12. They know what I don't like. They won't ask for a 12x12.
Yeah.
It's a 2 foot by 4 foot tile and it looks fine in the picture. When they're there, I'll approve it. So they know I'm flexible because I want them to make money. I always say to my contractors, if you don't make money, you're no good to me. You have to make profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they can save money by saying, Larry, this is the vanity we use, if I can get this one and save $75, go ahead, as long as it's nice enough. And so we try to be flexible as well. But the job description is parameters we're entitled to stick to, but we're willing to be flexible. So that's important too. Your contractors are really a team member. They're on your payroll.
You have to be, yeah. You just said something that I wanted you to elaborate on a little bit, and I feel the same way. As I've had a contractor that's rehabbed a couple hundred houses for me, and one of the challenges, we do a lot of coaching of new students in our Flip Nerd program, but one of the challenges that a lot of new people or small volume people face is that they never become important to a contractor, and then therefore the contractor might provide inferior quality because they're trying to find the next job, or they're doing 5 other jobs for other people. And when I was doing much higher volume rehabs, I had crews that were dependent upon me, and they were very loyal, and they did a higher quality job because they spent no time looking for the next job, because the next job would come from me. But talk about that kind of that dance, that reciprocation of being important to other people, and maybe how some people that are listening, if they're not doing as much volume as you are, or a really high volume, how they can maybe emulate those relationships, even though they don't have the volume to keep them busier. And just kind of share your thoughts on that, maybe.
Surely. You said something a moment ago, but it's true. It's a give and take. And I always say to my guys, I don't want to be billed for extras unless they're serious. You open a wall and there's no insulation. Okay, that's an extra. But I don't want to be nitpicked with extras. I don't accept them. They know that. But the same token, when they can buy a cheaper tile, I don't ask for a discount. Or if we find, something, we don't have to do this. We planned on doing something, moving a wall. I said, we don't need to move that wall. That's going to, it could save them $1,000. I'm not going to ask for that money back. I figured it's an absolute give and take. And if you work with the contractor, let them know, they need to make a living. You get a whole different build a whole different relationship. I don't think you have to do a lot of business with them to get them on your team, by as long as you're willing to have that give and take relationship. I'm allowed to sit there and say, don't nickel and dime me because they want my business, because I give them plenty of business. But if you say, I'm not going to dime you, but please then don't nickel and dime me, because that's what contractors really, I find, can be very, very difficult. It's the extras at the end that they never discuss. Right. And I think that's what kills many relationships.
Yeah.
So we almost never have a problem with extras at the end of our job. If they bill them for us, they're usually fair. If they're not, we have our own little dance that we go through, and it's one of the contractors. It's every job, but we're both equally unhappy or equally happy at the end, so we know it's fair. But the best thing to do is make sure that you let the contractor know that they're an important part of what the business you're building, because that you're first building a business, and that you want them to be fair to you and you want to be fair to them. And I think if you do that, those are not words that contractors usually hear from retail clients. But the other issue is we're just now looking for new contractors because we're getting beyond and moving into Brooklyn and Queens, and our contractors are in Brooklyn and Queens. There's all different licensing everywhere on Long Island. I don't know about that. And it's not a state license, it's very local. And we have all these villages with different licenses. It's a mess here. Anyway, and we're interviewing contractors from Craigslist, and we're getting some pretty interesting people in a good way.
That could be
that go both ways.
More commonly interesting in an interesting way. Right?
In an interesting way, right. And so we think that'll help build our business as well. And I have the same discussion with these new people that I'm having with you. I just love it. I tell them the same thing now that I tell my other contractors, just to give and take. We both have to. If I make money, you make money, and they're being very receptive, because I tell them I need wholesale pricing, and that's key. By the way, when you're looking for a new contractor, we advertise that we're house flippers and we need wholesale pricing. We write that in our ad. I don't want a contract saying I'll work with you and wants to bill us retail. We do kitchens for $10,000. That's not retail up here. Right. So we can't pay retail ops. You make our money in our buys, our sales, and our construction. It's a three-legged stool. So. Yep. That to me is very important. It's just about the relationship you build, and you've got to be fair.
Yeah. It's I've kind of found that too. The truth is my contractor, this Rehab Hunters of House for me, he's one of my very best friends now. Like we have season tickets to the Dallas Stars together. He's like a brother. I would literally do anything for him. He would do anything for me. And it's just the relationship that we build. Not everybody has to build that relationship like that, but I think it wasn't always that way either. It was more of like trying to get one over on each other, and then we had some challenges. It's like it was almost like a marriage. I make some jokes about it. So at one point we broke up and we started seeing other people, and then eventually we got back together and we had a mutual respect for each other. And absolutely, I think once that happened, that kind of changed everything. So
I had a contractor did a beautiful job on a house. We sold for much more than I expected. I dropped him a check for $10,000. He was in tears. He couldn't. What's this for? I said, you did a great job. We got more than we expected. I have to attribute some of that to the work you did. And thank you. And he didn't know what to do with himself.
That's amazing how far stuff like that could go. Yeah,
absolutely. You don't even need that much money, but it was a fair amount. I knew he didn't do really well on the job, and I wanted to make sure he made money. Yeah. So because I made plenty, and again, we both got to win. It's you have to talk. You talk the talk. You got to walk the walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Larry, you guys, we're actually about to meet here in a couple of weeks for our Investor Fuel Mastermind. This I think would be your third meeting.
Yes.
As a member.
My second. Our company's third.
Company's third. Yeah, because you sent Jamel the last time.
Right.
But third meeting, so you've been with us for approximately 9 months, right? So talk a little bit about how you guys have you have a lot of experience. You have a lot of knowledge. Right. And you joined Investor Fuel, and I think it's probably impacted your business in some positive ways. But maybe just kind of share experience-wise, like maybe what you thought coming in and what it's meant for you guys over the past 9 months.
Absolutely. I walked in early. I was with the first group when I came in the first meeting, because I got there hours early or a day early. And I couldn't believe how well-versed these people are, how knowledgeable they were, how driven they were. And I felt like a neophyte when I walked in that place. I was so humbled. And he said, oh, no, that's not your group. That's the group that wants to become your group. And because it was I've got
we have the gold and a platinum group.
The gold, the gold group.
Generally, the less experienced group is the gold group,
And I was so blown away. I was humbled sitting in the room with them. And then I go to the platinum group, and then I felt then I went to Platinum Bean the next morning, and I was extremely intimidated when I'm hearing at the hot seat presentations. I was very intimidated because I said we're doing 20, 25 deals a year, which is not a big number in this room. And some profit margins melted away for me. It was just the organization that these people had, you know, who were members of Investor Fuel. And after, they all couldn't have come in this way. So I'm sure they morphed into this as a result of being Investor Fuel members. And that's really what's happening to us. I said, we were really working our asses off, which we still are. We haven't gotten that part yet, but we're still building and developing, but working 60 hours a week, which I love working anyway, but 60 hours a week, and Jamel more. And my goal is, I'm 61, my goal is my wife retires in 4 years, to be able to work 3 days a week. That's my goal, not this 4 hours a week on your business. I like working, but but I never would have thought I could have done that and gotten as far as I think we can go without being part of your group. I reached out to Stinson about a month ago about this private capital, and he connected me immediately with 4 other people. Within an hour, I was getting emails and communicating with other people through all members, all people I'd spoken to before at the first meeting. So the group of people are so nice, and they're all successful in their own way, but no one comes across as being better than anybody else. No one's bragging about their business or anything of the sort, and everyone is so willing to help. I would never have thought something like this actually existed. I interviewed 3 different mastermind groups, and I liked you guys. And then I walked in and I liked everybody. And I speak to people from other groups or people who are in multiple groups, and they say that your group is the most down to earth out of all of them. And it absolutely shows. It's a pleasure going to the meetings. It's a pleasure dealing with you and Stinson. And our business is going to go to places that I don't think I would have expected it to be able to go if I didn't join. I mean, and we're going to hopefully do it more easily as well. So I can't give a better recommendation for this organization. As long as you're not coming from Long Island, Brooklyn, or Queens, it's a great place. If it doesn't apply to New York at all, don't go. It's no good if you're over here. But other than that, it's an incredible organization.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And the truth is, you know, we've just put the right people in the room, and we've, you know, we do a good job. I think we do a good job of weeding people out that are not a fit. And we, you know, we've done a good job, I think. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back here, but of creating this culture of, this isn't about ego. Like we're all in this to live better lives and build better lives and have stronger families and all that. The underlying theme we have together is we all work hard. We all have overcome obstacles to get to this point, no doubt. And real estate is our common theme, but let's not forget that this is all to live a better life for us and our families, right? And so this is one of the things we do, but you know, we try to keep the chest thumping out of there. So
I haven't seen any.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any, and that just blows my mind. It's such a successful group, and not to have any chest thumpers in the room. That just very shocking. So yes, you very well succeeded in putting a good group together. I said you weren't going to take me. See, so you're going to take me very, very particular. You're very particular.
Well, I'm glad you made the cut.
I'm glad I made the cut.
Thank you so much for the kind words, and thanks for joining us on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. I don't even know. Do you do much on social media if folks wanted to connect you?
Well, we have our website. People can reach me if they want at I'm L Wagner at leavethekey.com. And our company we just changed the name to leavethekey.com. We have multiple names like we all do in this business for different parts of the business. So that's the new one. So, that's, if anyone wants to reach out to me for any reason, they can reach my emails the best way. My son's starting to deal with social media. It's not my thing at all. He set me up at LinkedIn. I've never been on it. Facebook, I've never seen it in my life. So not my world.
That's awesome. Good for you to avoid some of those things, honestly. So. Yeah,
I have my own poisons. I don't need additional ones.
So Larry, thanks again for spending time with us today and sharing your information, getting to know you better. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And we'll see. I guess we're going to see you here in just a couple of weeks. So
absolutely.
And everybody, hey, thanks for joining us today. Hope you're getting some value out of the Investor Fuel Show. We've just really been doing this show for the past couple months. If you haven't yet, we'd love it if you subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, wherever you might listen to us at. Of course, on flipnerd.com and investorfuel.com, you can find the shows as well. So appreciate everybody for following along. We'll see you on the next show. you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.